This meeting of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees is called to order. The presence of a quorum has been established, and the meeting has been duly called, and the notice of the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. Public participation. Assume we don't have any public participants. So we'll go on to a couple of updates. We have a cybersecurity update, and then after that, a safety and security update.
Today is Security and Safety 101, it appears. Daryl Kisasande, that runs our cyber part of things, along with Joseph Jacks, our Chief Technology Officer, will be providing a report per your board monitoring calendar on things that the board and the administration thinks important to publicly report upon. There's also some statutory requirements that are also listed in regards to the reporting of and the sharing of information with the board and the public as well. We'll do everything that we possibly can to stay in compliance with Texas law in regard to executive session, et cetera. But these are very important opportunities for our school board and our public to be able to hear how the district is not only protecting its students and its staff, but its infrastructure on the technology side as well, which has a lot to do with things like social security numbers and emails and passwords and things like that. So we're going to turn it over to Mr. Kisasande and Mr. Jacks to provide you your cybersecurity update.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford. And thank you, President Washman, esteemed board members, and Dr. Crawford for this opportunity to give you the 2023-2024 cybersecurity technology update. As you are most likely aware from past reports, there is some legislation that was passed several years ago that requires us to create cybersecurity policies, have a cybersecurity coordinator, and report attacks to the TEA, among other things. We have on staff expertise in Mr. Kisasande, who most of you know as well. He's our network security engineer and also serves as our cybersecurity coordinator for all things cybersecurity as it relates to TEA. He manages network and cybersecurity systems and does a lot of other things outside of cybersecurity, but cybersecurity is his main job. He wears a lot of hats, as most of the folks in our department do. We also partner with a company out of Waco called Cynary Cyber Intelligence. We've been partners with these guys since 2019, and they specialize in cybersecurity as it relates to education. They work with over 200 school districts across 11 states. They do various things for us. They helped us create our policies several years ago, help us to stay in compliance. They run threat monitoring for us, and they also help us with a threat assessment that we perform every February. I'm gonna let Daryl talk to you real quickly about the threat assessment and then go over a couple other items, and then I'll jump back in here in a second.
Good morning. So as Joseph mentioned, we do the cybersecurity assessment every year. It gives us a good baseline to figure out where we're actually at as far as our security posture goes. In the previous years, last year, we scored, it does basically a scoring system of 1 to 5. Last year we scored a 2.96. This year we scored a 3.06. So we've gone up, which is what we try to do every year. It's getting to a point where it's getting difficult to go up due to manpower and things like that. But every year we strive to improve on the deficiencies that they find. To give you an idea of where we stand nationwide as well as Texas-wide, U.S. school district average is 2.23, so we're well above them. And the Texas schools average is 2.27, so, and we're above 3, which is actually really good. And for our other notable statistics that we have for the year, we have 100% compliance in our cybersecurity training for the previous year. This year, we're currently at somewhere around 92 or 93%. We always have the last stragglers that we have to pick up at the end of the year. Our last internal phishing campaign we did, we had a 90.2% pass rate. I would like to see that much higher, but also make them difficult. I remove our external banner, so it looks like it's coming from inside, so it shows the effectiveness of that banner. Because when we have that banner in place, over 97% will pass the phishing test. So far this year, we have blocked 22 incoming virus-infected emails. We have blocked 6,381 emails with malicious URLs. That's how they come in mostly these days because the filters have gotten pretty good. We blocked, we've had 0 outgoing virus-infected emails. So our systems that we have in place work really well. Data loss prevention for our email, we have stopped 869 emails from leaving our district that contain information that should not be sent via email. And we have blocked over 48 million spam marketing and potential phishing emails from my district in less than a year.
Kudos on that one.
So with over
Those are
over
enormous.
80% of our mail that comes in is junk.
Yeah, I want to just add one piece to that last bullet point there, where we do block 48+ million spam marketing and phishing emails coming in. We also get some legitimate stuff caught in that filter as well. Sometimes things don't get through and we get called and say, we're supposed to be getting this email, but we didn't. We can go in and fix that and make sure it gets through. But in order to block those 48 million illegitimate emails, we have to sometimes crank the filters down to make sure that we're catching everything, and sometimes some other stuff gets caught in. But we're trying to be tentative about getting that opened back up. So giving you a couple of looks into the future, some new tools that we're using either this year or they're about to be rolled out later this year or for next year. A big one for us is Informicast Fusion, and this is like an alerting, a silent alerting or alerting system. It's like an emergency reporting situations for our district personnel. So like, for example, if there was a lockdown situation, we will have, hotkeys or silent alarms so that certain staff can set off an alarm that alerts our district personnel or the appropriate authorities. Dialing 911 sends alerts to the right folks, and they know what room and what classroom it comes from so that we can respond to that quickly. It works in lockdowns, in fire drills, in tornado warnings, and all sorts of different emergency situations where it's coupled not only with alerting over our telephone sets. We'll use the speakers and you'll hear audible alerts can come over the classroom speakers, and also we're going to couple it with all the interactive flat panels that we've installed in every classroom and conference room. There'll be visual messaging to go along with each type of alert. The alerts can be triggered from not only silent alarms, hotkeys on your keyboard. We'll push apps to the mobile device, and then people's mobile phones will all be able to interact with Informicast Fusion. And there's a lot more coming about that a little bit down the road. We've been testing it heavily for the last couple of weeks, and we're getting real close to rolling that out. Agent Mills-Legel will talk a little bit more about that, I believe, in just a second. But we're really excited about this product. It is actually a product that we've been using for several years on a smaller basis with some little pieces, the ability to do all calls into classrooms. We already use this product, but we're expanding on it to include the emergency alerting portion of it. So that's pretty exciting. There's a product out there called LineWise. LineWise is a company. They have two products that one we started using at the beginning of the school year called ClassWise. What ClassWise does is it gives our teachers and staff members the ability to see what the students are doing on their Chromebooks, so they can see live in real time what's going on the screen. They can control those. They can lock the screens to get their attention, make sure they're paying attention in class. Just gives them some control over what's going on their mobile devices, their Chromebooks in the classroom. We also have another product that's gonna launch here in the next few weeks, I believe. So I don't wanna totally spoil it, but I wanna let you guys know about it. It's called, that's not a typo, it's called Custodio parenting app. It's also a LineWise product, and it gives kind of the same features what ClassWise does for our teachers, gives to the parents. It's a parent app that allows parents to be able to see what students are doing on their devices, not to quite probably to the depth that the ClassWise product does, but what websites are they looking at, how long are they on there, how much time are they spending, and things like that. That's also been in the testing phase, being piloted by several of our staff members. I believe Dr. Gropel's piloting that and a couple other folks. So there's some information coming out about that real soon, so we're really excited about that, and I think parents are gonna like that.
Before you go on to the next one, I just want to make sure that, to emphasize, we believe in the parent being the first teacher, but with that becomes some responsibility and in that partnership, and we want to make sure that we're emphasizing this is a parental empowerment tool, because we've heard this from parents that they get on devices and, oh my gosh, well, look at what my kids are doing, like when it's happening at home. Yes, we don't want it to happen at school, and then we need your help at home as well. So that is the custodial parent we're giving them a studio to be able to do it. It's called Custudio.
Yeah, I'm not.
And so we're really excited to announce that because we do hear that as well, but at the same time, we need help at the dinner table. We've said that. Schools are taking on a whole lot of water trying to fix society and fix the world. This is an opportunity for the parents to be empowered and to work with us as the first teacher of their own children. So there you go.
So just real quickly, I want to breeze through this real quick. I've talked about infrastructure with you guys before. Since I took this role 6 years ago, it's been a big focus of mine to make sure that the foundation of our network is solid, because I believe that everything, just like your house, everything that as technology touches everything these days. You have screens in front of you, you have screens in your pockets, everything runs on tech now, and it's important that the foundation of our network be solid so that everything else runs well on it. So we started some infrastructure projects several years ago with the refresh of our data center at the administration building. That's our core data center that we've had forever. It hadn't had a refresh in 20, 30 years. We did a major refresh of that in 21. We began construction of a secondary data center in 22, completed construction of a secondary fiber optic network around town. So that gives us 2 fiber optic circuits to each campus, so for some redundancy and resiliency. That was completed in 23. We completed construction of the secondary data center this past January, and we are in the process of bringing our data systems online. In that data center, testing, setup takes a long time to get everything coordinated and connected like it should be. With our expectation to finalize that project, doubling our internet capacity, and giving us a lot of resiliency in our network by the summer of 2024 and ready for the launch of school next year. So just real quickly, you've seen this graphic before, so I'm pretty sure I showed it last year, but I just want to give you an idea of what our network kind of looked like at a real basic level. In 21, you see at the bottom, that's what a campus looks like. Think of like 30 different campuses out there connected by one link to the data center in the middle, connected by one link to the internet. And then now what we've done is we're adding a secondary data center, additional 10 gigs of internet, each campus connected with 2 links to each school. This is what the network's going to look like now. This is a simplified version. It's a simplified version of what it really looks like. But what you've got, just real quickly, I'll try to explain it. Think of each of those big squares as a separate data center. Those represent routers and firewalls and things in there, and each one of them, they're talking to one another across that link in the middle. At the bottom, you have representation of 2 campuses, each one of them with a link to each data center. Each of those links be running across a completely different provider. So one of them may be 10 gigs running across Suddenlink. The other one may be 10 gigs running across Conterra or Vexus or whatever fiber provider. And what that means is that if we lose, an entire Suddenlink could go down, our network stays up. Conterra could go down, our network stays up. We could lose an entire data center, our internet would stay up and running because we're connected to the internet through both data centers. So the campuses would just fail over to, they would maybe be out for about 30 seconds, they fell over to the other one and just keep on going. The only thing that we would lose if we lost the entire data center would be whatever services are provided directly out of that DC, which in most cases, most of the things we have these days are hosted in the cloud, so most things would continue to operate. There's always going to be a few things that we can't duplicate in each data center, but this is what this right here is what the goal is when we get to the summer and we finalize this configuration, is to have not full, but almost full redundancy so that we can absorb outages. We could even be able to do maintenance during the daytime by swinging some of the load over to one area, work on this data center, and then bring things back online without anybody even knowing. So this has been a big project that we've been working on for multiple years. Some of it was slowed down because of the pandemic and supply chains, but we're getting very close to having this ready to go, and we're really looking forward to next year and what it means for us. Finally, just a couple of quick things. What's next? For the next year, we're gonna continue cybersecurity training, of course, revising our standards and guidelines to make sure our policies are up to date, keeping all of our systems upgraded so that we're in security compliance, and then, of course, finalizing these 2 big projects we're working on, along with a lot of other things we have going on behind the scenes. So that is the 2023-24 cybersecurity technology update. I will say there are some things that we've been very purposely brief on because we don't want to put our cybersecurity stance out there in the public. But if you have specific questions about what we're doing, we're more than happy to talk to you about that in a more private setting. But if you have any general questions, we'd be happy to take those now.
Anybody on the board have any questions or comments?
We got to hear about the parenting app, when was that? Tuesday, in the safety and security meeting. And I just want to reiterate to parents what Jennifer said. This is a free app for parents to use on 2 personal devices at the house. And that is really, really neat that we're able to do that, because right now a bunch of us parents have an app called Bark, and it's super expensive that we use every month that does the same thing. So to be able to provide that for parents with no fee attached is really great. And I think if parents actually utilize this, I think they're going to be shocked at what they find at home, and maybe it'll help us in the classroom some.
And to piggyback on that, I had a question that was answered, and it was, okay, is all that they're going to see if the kid is on a Tyler ASD server? And the answer was no, it's actually what's on their phone, correct? Like if the kid is at school and not logged on to a Tyler ASD server, and they're just using, data, like the parent through the app can still see what's on their phone wherever they are, whenever they are. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So that's even better, because all Tyler ISD can typically access is what's being
All we
run
can
through the
see.
server. It's all we can
Yeah.
monitor.
What's on the
and all
network
we
or
can-
what's on the device?
and all we can
Our
block.
device.
But through this, the parent will have access to whatever, their kid's doing, not necessarily the school, but through that app, the parent will be able to monitor their kid's device, it is a game changer for the modern world and modern parenting. And so I do also appreciate that ability.
I just had comments. I appreciate the question about the parents, because I was going to ask about how would they have it if there was a fee. I think that's great. I think it's a great opportunity for parents to be able to monitor their children much closer than they have been, I think, in the past with phone usage especially. The process with the teacher, now it's an app apparently that they download, or the parent download, they'll have access to the app that they download on their phone like we normally do apps or whatever.
Yes, sir. They'll get, I believe Communications is going to put out a flyer. We'll give them kind of instructions of how the process is going to work. And I think there's a QR code that they'll be able to use, scan with their phone, and be able to put the app on their phone, and then they can connect their kids automatically through it's done automatically through our systems to link the child to that parent or whoever the guardian is.
So they'll scan a barcode,
Yes, correct.
and then they can download the app from
On
that.
the app, and
Okay.
then they'll be able to add their personal devices, up to 2 devices that they own, that their kid owns or their family owns, to that app.
Okay.
Phone, a computer,
Yeah, it can be a phone, computer.
2 personal devices.
Right, and plus they get they can also, they can't really view the student device, the Tyler student device throughout the day. They will get reports. However, after school hours, they'll be able to view whatever their kid's doing on the student device at home, even though it
has-
belongs to the Tyler SD.
The 2 personal devices include the student's device and the parent's device, one parent's device.
They get 2 devices plus the school device. So the 2 devices can be a phone, it can be a home computer, it can be whatever they want, whatever they have at the house.
So the monitoring devices, the 2 monitoring devices will be the parental,
Correct.
meaning the 2 parents can have access to it.
I
And the
believe
students, then they'll be monitoring the students' devices issued through the district.
they will get reports they'll get reports, weekly reports, I believe, for their activity while they're within school hours. But however, after school hours, I believe it's 7:30 to 5, then they can treat that school device just like it's a personal device. They'll be able to turn the internet off at night, and things like that,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
A little bit. It's just, first time hearing it, it's kind of,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to process it all and understand exactly how it works, because, some parents are not technical in that aspect, and I was just wondering, how they would be able to do it.
It'll give them some capabilities that they currently do not have, mostly at home. They won't be able to control our devices during the day. because we don't want that.
Right.
And they won't really be able to see what their kids are doing throughout the day. They'll get reports, but
Okay. they'll
but
get
their own
reports. Okay.
personal devices, they'll be able to control it, just like we can as a student device.
Okay, I think I'm getting a clear picture, I think.
I love both of them, especially the teacher one. I have one question. Can y'all talk to AT&T? No, I'm just kidding. I love both of them, so I think that's awesome, especially for the educators.
I have a question. If I download the app and then my husband downloads the app, does that give us 4 personal devices?
It's a good question. I don't know.
I think that, oh, you're
Test that
talking
out
about 2 and 2?
Yeah.
Not you and your husband getting to download the app, but you're saying
Like
two
if I
for-
download the app, I
Mr.
get 2
Harrison,
personal
2 for
devices.
Mrs. Harrison?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably 2 per child. It's 2 per
Oh,
student.
2 per child. Oh, got it.
So your
Okay.
kid's phone, your kid's personal computer.
Oh, that's great. Yep, I'll just add
Your other
those
kid's
to it.
phone.
So
their
if you have
personal
2
computer.
children that are in public schools in Tyler, Texas, you'll be able to monitor
2 of their devices.
those 2 students, 2 of their devices apiece.
Great.
Is that,
That's how we
Correct.
understand it.
Yeah, that's how we understand.
yeah. So Elena should be able to download it along with myself to see what AJ's looking at. And if I had another kid, we could add that one. Well, yeah.
One other question, going back to our scores that went up from a 2.7 to a 3.03. What's the scale there?
Scale-
4 points would be perfect? 5
Scale
points?
is 1 to 5.
1 to 5, okay.
I want to say the passing score is considered 2, I believe. When you start getting up into 4, you're looking at banking industry, and
Right.
you get up to 5, you're looking at DoD levels. So
Of course.
3 is hard as is good, and it's quite difficult to achieve. You have to have your ducks in a row in order to get into the 3s. And to get into the 4s, yeah, you're looking at banking level type security.
And we started out in the mid-2s when we started doing this 4 or 5 years ago. And each year we do the assessment. They come back and give us a list of things that we can improve on. And we pick some of those that are critical and we work to improve those. And the next year our score goes up. And so each year our score has been improving until we got into the 3s this year.
Do you know of any schools that are rated a 4?
I probably doubt any of them, I wouldn't say.
Doubt it.
It's like I said, it's very difficult. Once you get starting to 4, you're starting to constrain your system so much, it becomes hard to work. And we have to have that fine balance of security, but also keep the systems working the way they should without interfering with education. So there's a fine line there, and we're getting close to that line. As you can see by blocking emails and things like that should be blocked. We're on that kind of that margin. Or now our next year is working with it's more or less documentation because technology-wise we're pretty good on technology. So now we're going to be focused on documentation for vendor access and things like that and procedures for them. It's that kind of stuff that we're going to need to work on more. If that makes sense.
So the system evaluates more than just school districts, it evaluate other entities as well?
Correct.
Right, okay.
This falls under the Texas Cybersecurity Framework. That's who we're kind of judged by. And basically any business, both
Okay.
government, federal,
That's
or not federal,
okay.
but state governments, local governments, and things like that, they all have to meet
Right.
this requirement.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Jacks alluded to this, but want to thank the board for your tremendous support in our district-wide, our flat panel initiative. A lot of it was covered, the 17 and the 20, now the 22 bond. We'll kind of wrap it up, but district-wide, y'all have put flat panel in every one of our classrooms.
Every classroom, every meeting room.
Yeah, so thank y'all for supporting that. I can't remember, pretty sure it's probably unanimous vote on that, but thank you for doing that. And then our phone transformation that we did, even when we still had the old high schools, we started that. And we went ahead and said it was that important because it was such a modernized system that we went ahead and put them in the old high school buildings. And then we pulled them out, put them back in the new high school buildings, and then obviously we demoed that stuff. So this has been a pretty good little 6-year project to upgrade our hardware that are being used for emergency purposes and normal communication purposes as well. Very modern and fun to tinker with a little bit at times as well. But thank you all for your support in doing that. This goes back a couple, 3, 4, 5, 6 boards ago we started this thing. Of course, y'all have provided some funding for it, but not a lot. A lot of it's E-rate. And Uncle Esser?
ESSER and E-rate paid for some of it.
Yeah, so that's something we've been very fortunate to be able to do. And I think it's been smart because using those funds for not just these short one-time expenditures, it's been some things that have some length on it. Yep. Difficult to pull that off if we didn't have those two resources.
I did have one additional question regarding security. In light of the entities being held for ransom, in regards to security and getting data and everything, what is the potential of that happening within TISD?
It's always possible.
Okay.
There's almost no way to get 100% alleviated. What we do is we have a lot of technologies in place. I don't really want to mention those technologies, but we have several layers of technology to help stop that.
Okay.
That's where I mentioned how I'm talking about the viruses and the emails being blocked. Almost all of us can come in through an email some way. We train our people. That's what the cybersecurity training for, because they're the last line. If it gets through all those technologies, it gets to them.
Okay.
So those people need to be able to recognize, is this real? Is this phishing? And things like that. And then we've got some other technologies in place to detect when something happens. But we also have isolations. We have our systems isolated. So where if they do get something, they probably won't get the whole thing.
That's good.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Note to vendors, do your research and find out who the department heads are in a school system, as opposed to just asking TEA for a listserv of all the superintendents in the state email. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, y'all and your entire team have a tremendous amount of responsibility. We recognize that. We appreciate all the hard work you do, keeping us safe. Technology, and it's obviously not going anywhere, and with it, there's a lot of exposure, so we appreciate you limiting that exposure as much as you can so we can have a good modernized school system. It's really neat to have cool tools to use in the classroom and at home, so thank you, and if anybody else doesn't have any questions, we can move on to our safety and security update.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Good update. I'm now coming to the presentation table. We have Agent Jeff Millslagle, our Director of Safety and Security. Agent Millslagle has now been on your staff for
4.5 years.
4.5 years, will be 5 this November.
Yes.
5 complete. So we've been blessed to have him to supplement our police force led by Chief Danny Brown. He's going to give you per your board monitoring calendar, our safety and security update. Got a lot of good information. Agent Millslagle.
President Washman, Board, Dr. Crawford, Ms. Orr. I was here a few months ago in October, and a lot has happened since then. And the date that I sat here in October, I told all of you, we were in compliance. That's a great thing. We are still there. So that's a key thing, especially with the School Safety Center and TEA giving us more and more things to do. I spoke about this 2 days ago to the Safety and Security Committee and kind of explained where we're at and where we're going. And I'm going to give you a short version of that because that was done in executive session. And like Mr. Jack said, if you have further questions, a deep dive, if you will, feel free to reach out for me and I can explain where we're going. So first of all, we submitted the district audit report for the 3 years ending in 2023. That new window opens up again August the 1st, here 2024. So we'll be doing that again. However, things are going to change with the School Safety Center, and I'll get into that here in a minute. Our grant money that we received a couple of years ago, we've spent about 87% to this day. We have one thing that's really neat. We are one of the very few school districts in the state of Texas that has impact-resistant film on every campus window that someone could get in, not step up with a ladder second floor. Not just the vestibules and the side windows as you go into the campuses, but all the way around the campuses. So that I think is a great investment, and it's warranted for 10 years. And if you did that today to be in compliance, I was told by TEA last week, 18 months out. So we're ahead of the curve on that, and I really appreciate the support from the board and the superintendent and the grants. So We have the silent panic technology that Joseph referred to earlier. This is a wonderful thing, and it's also required. Now, at the time when I said we were in compliance, we had a contract with Informacast and all of that. So we're going to roll that out. I've been working with his team, making sure it works and works right, because we want to detect anything that could come in the parking lot with the apps, or any teacher that says, uh-oh, I have a problem, and there's a way with a hot button, and we're working our way through that. So that's been a huge thing. The fencing is complete, with the exception of a possible issue at Birdwell, and that's a very small little area that we may have to raise from 6 feet to 8 feet outside the loading dock. Next, the EOP plans. In October, I submitted these to the School Safety Center. They requested the EOP plan that we do every year. They requested the hazard analysis polling place. We're one of the very few schools in the state that have polling place annexes, and they've asked that, and I was able to provide that and share that with some other districts during the vulnerability assessment 3 weeks ago. Back and forth, this went on until March the 7th when they finally approved it. And one of the issues was how many school safety committee meetings do we have? Do we keep notes and all that kind of stuff? And I had to give them the dates. That was the bottom line. They wanted the dates. This comes to our next thing, the new and upcoming thing, the intruder audits. We'll have some next week. There will be 3 done. And in the following month, there'll be 5. We are 85% complete. We've had 0 findings and 0 corrective actions. So that's really a good thing. And our staff, from everybody, from the custodian to the principal at each campus, has done a great job. They're on top of this. And it's good to hear when they come in and they say, hey, you're a gold medal standard when it comes to this, because we don't want to come and say we messed up. Last week, out came from TEA this thing called Safe Grant 2. So when we had told the state we were in compliance, we couldn't get extra money on Safe Grant 1. We were not qualified to do that because we were doing the right thing. Safe Grant 2 came out and said, well, those of you districts that did a good job, we'll give you some money. So last week, we are going to receive $527,933 for any safety-related item. So what that means, it's not a formula grant. It doesn't have to be silent panic technology, impact-resistant film, radios, things like that. So I've gone to see Mr. Loper, I've gone to see Chief Brown, and Nurse Barber, and said, what do you need in the way of safety? And that's where we're going to start. And we're going to go from there. And we're looking at long-term solutions, not a one-time that's going to last 6 months to a year. Vehicles are included, radios are included, slides for our schools that need them. As Fire Marshal is now under a new fire code, 2021. We used to be under 2018, so there's some new tweaking that we're going to have to do with our fire marshal.
So slides not being like the old school on the outside of a building, like
No.
in the 30s, that was their fire escape. You're talking about the
Slides going.
sleds,
Sleds, yeah,
Okay.
I should have said sleds.
sleds for disabled children that you slide them down the stairwell. Controlled.
Controlled slides, and we'll see.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, City of Tyler. So I've been dealing with them on 3 or 4 different areas. First of all, the crossing guards are coming to us on August the 1st. I met with HR, I met with every crossing guard, because change is confusing to some folks. It's gone really, really well. We want to keep all of them, and we'll be hiring a coordinator for that position. Right now, the city is down 1 crossing guard. Unfortunately, they passed away, and they're hiring another one, but we'll keep them on as we move forward. The fire marshal has been running around for the last week, and will continue 1 more week in their audits and inspections. And each day I get a report of 2 or 3. We should be completed with that by next Thursday. That is the goal. I met with the City of Tyler traffic engineer, and they received a grant from the state of Texas for Parks and Rec. And you've seen them building other stuff around here. One of the things that they identified was a number of students crossing between Hubbard and Legacy using the Rose Redmond Trail, and they were going to put on their expense with the grant a crossing light there. So that will remove one of the crossing guards that we can reposition at the beginning of the school year. They don't have a date of start yet, but it's coming. So the last thing I have for you is this SAFE grant. So I will be coming to you because a lot of these items are rather expensive, and the one that's first on the list that's required under this International Fire Code of 2021 is the ability for first responders to communicate within our buildings. It's perfect at the New Hubbard and Early College. Our two high schools, unfortunately, it was under the old code. We must comply with the new code, and the cost is on the school districts. So that is number one. Number two is going to be vehicles. Chief Brown is looking to see replacement vehicles and add an additional 2 vehicles that we can put at the campuses with the officers. It's a great deterrent for anybody coming up. So we're looking forward to that. Cameras, we're doing okay on that. Radios, we are going to upgrade our campus radios from analog to digital, because too many of these analogs are getting old and they just don't communicate anymore. And the last big thing is emergency kits. So in this vulnerability assessment that's coming down the road, and I've seen a precursor to what's happening, they're not just looking at the safety of the facility. They're going to dive down all the way into stop the bleed kits, what's in them, what's required. They're going to go into EOP plans. They're going into behavioral assessments. And they will be beginning, and they'll give the superintendent and the board notice, 30 days notice, and then I'll be required to fill out all these forms. It's much like where I used to work at the FBI and FBI inspection. And you submit all the documents, they review them, then they'll be in this district for our size between 7 to 10 days. And they'll do an out briefing and they'll tell you what you're going to get. But one of the things we don't have that we're going to get are these emergency kits when we evacuate a school. For whatever reason, when the nurse goes out, we're going to have that nurse have an evacuation kit in case there's an incident outside. So they can't have to come back in to get their kit. And they're rather expensive, but they'll last 10 years. And that is what I have for you.
Go ahead and give your disclaimer on that visit too. You've been telling me this, you've been telling staff this, you told the big committee that meets quarterly 2 days ago. Please give the disclaimer.
Expand on this? Okay.
No, about the visits, about what happens. I don't care if you're the top performing alphabet agency in the government, what happens?
Here's what happens. This is an assessment, and this is what I've talked to the people that work here. We are in District 10, okay? There's 10 districts in the state for the school safety agents. Fortunately, I know 2 of the guys that are here. They have 3 from the Red River down to Beaumont, and us and Beaumont are the big ones. So what's going to happen is they're going to send us a letter, and I'm going to have to fill all this stuff out. They're coming. They're going to find something. There is going to be a finding, ladies and gentlemen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. They are also in competition, if you will, and they say we're working together with the School Safety Center. Prior to them coming on board and building an agency, I responded to the School Safety Center. Never in my life I would think I would be sending the EOP plan to San Marcos and to Austin. Well, that's changed. That has totally changed. When they get here, there'll be an in-briefing with myself and maybe a board member and the superintendent and tell us what they're going to do. Then they go to each and every campus. They're allowed to interview anybody at the campus. They can pick them out. They're going to ask them about training, what to do on your standard response protocol, the little thing when we have a lockdown. What's a lockdown versus a secure? They can interview these people. They can go around and take a look at activating the silent panic technology, see if it works. Check all the windows if they like, check the doors, audit the stuff that the School Safety Center is doing, these audits. They're going to take a look at those. And then they'll leave with an out briefing with the findings with myself, the superintendent, and maybe one of you. And then they'll go back and allegedly within 3 to 6 weeks, you'll get a report. And then we have so many days in which to correct all their recommendations.
So it's designed.
It's designed to catch you.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's okay. No one's perfect in this, and I understand that. But I have a team that have gone through many years of FBI inspections. We know what to expect, and we know how to deal with it. And we'll get through this together. But when I looked at it after a Zoom call that I had with a former colleague of mine who's the number 3 down there, I called him, we talked, and I think right now, if they showed up tomorrow, I think I could produce 90% of the documents they want right now. And that's a credit to Ms. Orr, and I'm going to single her out. She keeps the minutes here. She keeps them at school safety committee meetings that we meet. They can even come to those. And I welcome that. Please, come on, let us show what we're doing, because I think we're doing it right.
Most of those are conducted in closed session.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody on the board have any questions, comments?
I can't let you leave out of the room without asking about the city of Tyler and Tech Stop in relation to Tyler High's crosswalk overpass.
It failed.
It failed.
No, TxDOT in this region got $0 out of that grant.
Okay.
They proposed, I believe, give or take 10 projects, nothing around here.
Okay.
Mills,
So where do we go?
explain the difference between Hubbard and the street.
Of the street.
Versus
That
the
is owned
highway.
by the city,
Right.
and it has no
Right. I
TxDOT
understand.
oversight.
Right.
And the city put that in with the Parks and Rec through Rose Redmond Trail.
So
We'll
what do
continue
we
to try to
do?
use our legislative levers to figure out a way to get that funded. As y'all know, we've been able to man that crossing with signs and police officers since then. So we're basically funding that traffic control right there on a daily basis. We don't have a problem continuing to do that. And so we'll continue to use our legislative levers to try to get some funding for that. Every time that cycle comes up, that grant comes up, we're not going to give up. We'll continue to work with the city, but we were shut out. Your large metropolitan areas of Houston, Austin, and Dallas were the ones that received that Texas Department of Transportation funding. So right now,
closest-
we're going to continue to do that as long as that's successful and effective.
Yeah, I've kept all that for the next time this comes out. The closest one to us was Pittsburgh.
You remember the cost of that?
Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh, Texas?
Yes,
What did they get?
they got something. That was the closest one when I looked, and everybody, we were all disappointed. We put a lot of work into doing that. Our cost would have been 20% of roughly $630,000.
Yep.
But, yeah, TxDOT was very disappointed here in Tyler, I can tell you.
Well, I appreciate the effort and persistence, and so far the crosswalk has been relatively safe, and they are there monitoring it pretty frequent. I go by there. So I appreciate everything you're doing on your part.
Yeah,
We
thank you.
understand some things are out of our hands.
Thank you very much.
Now, what they're doing down by Dollar General, once they get down there, we don't have much control over. But at least getting across in front of the school, we've got 2 ways to get across there now. One where the police officers stand, and one at the actual light.
Right.
Anybody else?
I know I say it every time, but as a trustee, but also as a parent, I appreciate you and everything your team does for our kids, keeping everyone safe.
Thank you.
I know it's a
I'll
hard
share
job.
that with them.
And I know I say it every time too, but getting to sit in on the quarterly sessions that we have with safety and security, it's pretty impressive to see every safety entity in the county come and meet together. And I think that's special. And, I don't know what participation is like in other places, but when you sit in there, you feel like you're around a lot of professionals, and you feel like your kids are really taken care of, as a parent that's sitting in there. So we've got it good here in Tyler, and we want to continue to be that gold standard that you've created. So
If I leave any agencies off, please let me know. But sitting in there, the Smith County Sheriff's Department, along with Tyler Fire, Smith County Fire, there's are they there, son?
They're on the committee.
They're on the
He was-
committee, so there's two separate ones there.
Yes.
You've got ATF, so it's alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. You got the FBI that's in there as well. You've got our police department, our safety and security, along with all of our other departments. Did I leave anybody? Did
Tyler PD.
I leave Tyler PD off? Okay, yeah, Tyler PD's in there as well. So we're in a pretty good place in Texas that people are really on point with this. The sheriff did hold his, I guess it's once every semester.
Every 6 months.
Every 6 months.
Counties under 300,000 persons in the county, the sheriff is in charge with school safety. Okay, so he is required by law to have a meeting, and we attended that. And it's required, like for myself and the superintendents are supposed to be there, and that was their first one. And we work really well with the sheriff's office.
You know, just like we saw during the pandemic.
Yeah.
The county's administrative side, led by the judge, along with the sheriff and even the emergency coordination done through the fire department. These other jurisdictions have let us do our job. Not a whole lot of interference there when it comes to this. They really trust us to do our job. They've even made a slight adjustment when we've had a swatting call or two to at least let us know before they scramble the jets to go to one of our campuses. Early on, as y'all recall, first day of school, we didn't have some of these, everybody's been on point about this stuff. And one of those swatting calls came in and didn't notify us that there was going to be folks arriving in our campus with sirens blaring. So thanks to the alphabet, as I like to call them, they are really, truly authentic in what they're trying to do here, and they allow us to do our job.
And one other thing I'll mention, two of you know this, we've given access to the 911 dispatchers. So they won't have to scramble the jets. They can look live, click a mouse and say, okay, there's something at one of our campuses. They can actually look at it. They can't review it, but they look at it live. And that was rolled out during the safety and security meeting. And one of the gentlemen that was there gave me a thumbs up in the middle of it and said, ooh, this is good. And he was looking at one of our campuses that they have jurisdiction over south of town here. And Tyler PD rolled theirs out yesterday, and they were very excited. They called up, and thank you, because it didn't cost anything for either side. So,
And Mills and Mr. Loper have done a great job over the last 2 years because, since the legislative and executive branches have taken an interest in schools finally, funding needs to follow that, by the way. Fencing has been a hot topic. Y'all had a nice discussion about some fencing we added at Jack Elementary School. We're not trying to fence the world, but we're going to do it appropriately and aesthetically pleasing the best that we can. We're going to make sure we put up good fencing that's in compliance, but something that's not so restrictive of the beauty of our campuses that it gets in the way of what our 20-year building project has done here. Again, thanks to the community for supporting us in the last 20 years on making sure we're building safe and secure schools as well.
All right. Well, we do appreciate you and appreciate your presentation.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we do have executive session with a couple of action items to follow coming out of there, most likely. So we will go into executive session. Okay, we are reconvening from executive session. We do have two things we need to act on. One is the action to propose the non-renewal of the term contract of Joyce Palmer. Do I have a motion on that item?
Mr. President, I move that the board propose the non-renewal of the term employment contract of Joyce Palmer for good cause, and that the administration be authorized to issue the required notices.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. And we also have possible action terminating the Chapter 21 probationary employment contract of Mia Johnson. Do I have a Motion on that item.
Mr. President, I also move that the board terminate the probationary employment contract of Mia Johnson, previously proposed for termination for good cause.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Anybody else have anything before we adjourn the meeting?
Mr. President, I would just like to say, I'd like to send my appreciation to the Communications Department and Dr. Jones for the Teacher of the Year interviews I got to be a part of yesterday. It was really great to see those teachers. They were all top-notch. I look forward to the awards banquet next week, and I just want to say thanks for letting me be a part of that. I enjoyed, they were all great, weren't they, Ron? They just kind of restored your faith in our teachers, and so appreciate that.
Very good.
We have 2 open houses.
Oh, we've got ribbon cuttings coming up. Yeah, a lot of fun stuff on the horizon. I will go ahead and entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All right. Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.